Have you ever stopped to wonder where your thoughts actually come from? Not in a casual way, but really wondered. When an idea pops into your mind, when an opinion feels obviously yours, when a fear shows up without warning, have you ever questioned whether that thought was truly created by you, or whether it simply passed through you? Most people believe thinking is a deeply personal act, something private and internal, happening quietly inside the mind, as if every thought were an original creation. But the truth is more unsettling and more liberating than that. Most of your thoughts are not really yours. They were planted, repeated, reinforced, and accepted long before you ever noticed they were there. Imagine your mind as a room with all the windows open. Ideas flow in like air. Some come from childhood, others from school, family, culture, television, social media, friends, strangers, people you admire, people you fear, people you've never met but who shape the world around you. Over time, you start calling that air my thoughts. Psychology refers to this as conditioning. From a very young age, the human brain learns by imitation and repetition. Before you could even form complex sentences, you were absorbing patterns, tone of voice, emotional reactions, what was praised, what was punished, what was considered success, what was considered failure. Your brain didn't analyze any of it. It simply recorded it. From a survival perspective, copying was safer than questioning. And this doesn't stop in childhood. Continues every day. When you scroll through your phone, when you watch a video, when you overhear a conversation, when you repeat a joke, when you feel embarrassed without knowing why. Thoughts are contagious. They spread like stories told so many times that they begin to feel like facts. Neuroscience shows that the brain works more like a filter than a source. It selects, rearranges, and combines information that already exists. Very few thoughts appear out of nowhere. Most are automatic responses to external triggers. Comment you heard, a headline you read, a memory activated without your permission. Think about how many strong opinions you hold about things you've never truly experienced. How many beliefs you defend confidently without ever questioning where they came from. Maybe someone you respected said it. Maybe you heard it repeated so often that it felt familiar. And the brain loves familiarity. Familiar feels safe, even when it isn't true. There's a psychological effect known as the illusory truth effect. The more often an idea is repeated, the more true it feels, regardless of accuracy. Your brain mistakes repetition for reality. This is why simple phrases, repeated over time, can shape entire identities, fears, and desires. Now think about the negative thoughts you have about yourself. That inner voice that criticizes, doubts, tells you you're not good enough, that you'll fail, that you're behind, that you're not that kind of person. Do you really believe that voice was born with you? Or was it learned slowly, through comparison, expectations, comments, and silence? Often, that voice doesn't even sound like you. It sounds like someone from your past. Parent, a teacher, a coach, peer. Your mind simply continued the conversation long after the person left. And over time, you stopped questioning it. You assumed that voice was you thinking. Neuroscience shows that the brain doesn't clearly distinguish between original thoughts and internalized ones. To the brain, repetition equals importance. It doesn't care where the thought came from, cares how often it appears. So you start making decisions based on thoughts you never consciously chose. You choose paths out of fear, not desire. You avoid opportunities because it's not for people like you. Even though you've never tested that belief. You limit yourself because you think certain lives are reserved for certain types of people. But who decided that? Notice how many thoughts arrive fully formed, like complete sentences. You don't assemble them word by word. They just appear. That's because much of the brain operates on autopilot. It saves energy by reusing existing mental patterns. Truly conscious thinking requires effort. It requires pausing. It requires discomfort. It's easier to let thoughts run along familiar tracks. The tracks of culture. The tracks of social expectation. The tracks of what's considered normal. And slowly, you live inside thoughts you didn't choose and call it personality. Philosophy has warned us about this for centuries. Ancient thinkers spoke about lives lived without examination, not as an insult but as an observation. The world is loud. Opinions are pushed constantly. Ideas compete for attention, and the loudest ones often win. Even your desires are influenced this way. What you want to buy, who you want to be, what kind of life you think is worth living. How much of that desire came from within you, and how much was absorbed by watching what society rewards and celebrates. The brain is wired for social reward. Belonging, approval, and status activate the same neural circuits as food and safety. So you learn to think like the group thinks. Not because you're weak-minded, but because you're human. For most of human history, questioning the group came with serious consequences. But there comes a point where not questioning costs more. Costs authenticity. Costs time. Costs choices that don't feel aligned. It costs living a life that looks busy on the outside but feels empty on the inside. Realizing that most of your thoughts are not truly yours isn't an attack on your identity. It's an invitation to freedom. Because if you didn't choose many of the thoughts you have today, you're not obligated to carry them tomorrow. This begins with something simple but powerful. Observation. Not fighting your thoughts. Not trying to silence them. Just noticing them. Asking quietly, is this a fact or a repetition? Did this come from my own experience or from something I absorbed? Does this thought expand me or does it shrink me? When you create that small space between you and the thought, something shifts. You stop being the thought and start being the one who notices it. And in that space, choice becomes possible. Psychology calls this metacognition, the ability to think about your thinking. Philosophy calls it awareness. Some traditions call it awakening. The label doesn't matter. The result does. You stop being dragged by your mind and start steering, even if slowly. This doesn't mean eliminating influence. That's impossible. We are social, cultural, historical beings. But it does mean choosing which ideas get to live inside you, which thoughts you feed, which stories you keep telling yourself. Picture your mind as a garden. Thoughts grow there constantly. Some were planted by you. Many were not. If you never look, everything grows randomly. Some plants choke the others. Some hurt when you touch them. But when you start paying attention, you can decide what to water and what to let fade. And maybe the most important realization is this: you are not everything you think. You are what can question those thoughts. You are the space where thoughts appear, change, and disappear. Once you understand this, something softens. You no longer have to believe every thought that passes through your mind. Not every fear. Not every doubt. Not every certainty. Thoughts are events, not commands. Gradually, life becomes more intentional. Not because you control everything, but because you notice more. You notice when a belief no longer fits, when a fear is outdated, when an idea has outlived its usefulness. Maybe becoming a better version of yourself isn't about adding more thoughts, more information, more opinions. Maybe it's about removing what was never yours to begin with, quieting the noise, listening more carefully, choosing with presence. In the end, the question isn't whether your thoughts are yours or not. The real question is this: which ones will you continue to carry now that you know you have a choice?